All right. Welcome everyone. As you start logging in, we're going to give a few minutes for everyone to get here and get comfortable. You should be seeing Kathy's slide on your screen, and you won't see yourself. This is like webinar format, so you won't see yourself. But we can talk to you if you put something in the chat for us, or we have a Q&A box on the bottom. So we'll let a few minutes go by as people start logging in.
Tell you too. I forgot. Oh, I think if you see somebody asking a question in between, don't hesitate to stop me. You know, sometimes the answer is pertinent at that point in time. So,
okay, I will flag you down. So, and if anyone does have questions, I don't know if you know how Zoom works. There's on the bottom of your screen, you should have some tools. If you put your mouse around there, there's a Q&A box and there's a chat. You can ask in either place. I'm going to be checking both places. And if you haven't brought pen and paper with you, you should get some because there's going to be a lot of information and you might want to try to remember some of it. This will be recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel at the Kimberly Public Library YouTube channel, like later this week. And I think it goes onto the Outagamie County Master Gardener's website as well. But I don't do that, so I can't confirm that. We'll give just another minute.
I'm not sure if that gets posted on our site, but probably does.
it did the last couple years. I don't know, but I thought I had to hand the person a jump drive. I'm not sure. I think they could probably figure out how to post. I don't know, Jill, you can share it with their site. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I think they have been, and they ask if they need it.
Jill, when would this be posted on your site?
It won't probably be posted until at least Wednesday, possibly Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It takes a couple days just for me to get to work and do it. All right. We still got some people logging in here. If you have any questions, again, in the bottom of the thing, you should find some things down there. If you have any trouble with the Zoom, like you can't see or you can't hear or something's weird, you can also put that in chat and I can try to help you with that. All right, that's slowing down a little bit. Welcome everyone to another Master Gardeners Presents. I'm Jill Vanending. I work for the Kimberly Public Library and I am the one that's kind of making this all happen with the magic of Zoom. And I am here with Master Gardener Tom, who coordinates this program. And Tom, do you want to talk about who we have here today?
Sure. Jill is also a master gardener, so that makes it very convenient. But to get started, Kathy Baum is one of the founding members of our organization. And she is just a encyclopedic resource for us. I know you don't like that, Kathy, but that's the fact. So if you have any questions about this program, as Jill said, this was posted on the Kimberly Library website in a few days, but you can also send an email to Gardener SOS about questions about this presentation or any other gardening presentation. With that, I will, I've got my piece of paper here, my pen, so I'm ready to take notes. So Kathy, go for it.
Well, welcome everybody. I think this is my third year presenting through the Kimberly Library, and I'm so happy to be back. We have some great plants coming in and they're going to be selling them at our plant sale. and I'll have more information at the end of this presentation. I'm hoping I'm going to be answering a few questions about pollinators and bees and just some hints here and there with some of the plants that I've ordered this year. So I'm going to give you a little background on where we get the plants. I know I do that every year, but since I only talk to you once a year, if you're like me, you might like a refresher course. So anyway, I wanted to just introduce the fact that this is a presentation from the Outagamie County Master Gardener Association. We're an active group of well-organized, dedicated horticultural volunteers, providing education and service to the community. But all the sales from our plant sales, we're a nonprofit, and all the money goes back into the community on educational projects, on support projects, you name it, we're out there trying to help wherever we can. So I think it's a great place. When you come to our plant sale, you know that the profit is going back into an area by where you live. So anyway, this is my original gardening style. I still do this. I still have this garden. The shade has increased. This is probably 10 years ago. I have a lot more shade from these pine trees, and this tricolor beech has stunned me with its beauty, and it's probably 30 feet tall now. So, but I just wanted to give you an example that I do actually garden. Here's another shot from a different side of the yard. We have an old corn crib that I use for a gazebo, and I pick up stuff off the curb, like this chair, which is now melted into the landscape and had to be given over to the dumpster. So anyway, but this is the other way I retain plants. I have an old hay wagon, and I buy way too many plants, and then I go, oh, I'm going to put that in, and then, well, it's too hot, or I need to weed that area first, or I need to do something, and I procrastinate a lot. But that's also made me a more knowledgeable gardener, because of the fact that I know what will winter over in a pot really well, what won't winter over in a pot, how tough a plant is. I trial a lot of these plants because I buy a lot of these plants. And so when I put this presentation out there, I am very selective on what we order. I try to order a variety that will be appealing to everybody, sun, shade, in between, you know, some prairie, a little bit of everything. But I've already bought either a cultivar or different species and tried a lot of stuff. So that's where I get a good base of my knowledge. Not to mention, just I took the classes in '99, and I've been taking classes ever since. So, and I've taken some horticultural classes at the tech school, so I try to be as well-rounded as I can. This is my new thing. We built a house with an attached garage. We live on a farmette with 10 acres. And this is my new thing because I found out how good plants winter over in an attached garage. It's amazing. I just pulled all this apart because everything was coming up in spite of it still being cold out. And I bet you there's 700 plants here. And I think if 2 didn't live, it's a miracle that it really worked well. So that's how crazy this is. These are all stuff I'm holding over. But a lot of this whole bottom row here, this is all, I do a lot of, I love hostas. I have a lot of hostas, and I do hosta hybridizing. So those are my hybrids from last year, and I keep wintering them over for 3 or 4 years until I do an evaluation on them, and then they either go in the dumpster or I put them in a place where I'm going to look at them longer in pots. It's crazy. So, all right. So a lot of my selections are based on this slide. You have your genus, which is the plant group altogether. And then you have species. And so this is a good example. This Achillea will belong to a genus. And then Achillea philippenjulanina or whatever it is, that's a genus, and that's this part here will be the species of that genus. And then you'll have this, and then the name of the plant will be carnation gold, and that will be the cultivar. Well, when I go and start looking at plants to select, I'm looking at this species, because all the genus groups are just huge. I mean, this Achillea alone, which is yarrow, could easily have hundreds and hundreds of different plants in that same genus. But then this is going to define it as in the species. There might be hundreds of species. And then it's going to be down to the cultivar itself, where they have cross-pollinated to try to get very attractive characteristics of each and every one of these plants. So when you're done, you've got fern leaf yarrow being the common name, called carnation gold. And I don't think people realize how important this part right here is, the species part, but I do, and that's what I really look for. So we use 2 wholesalers when we're buying our plants. And you're saying, well, why do we need to know this? Well, because Walter's Gardens that we get our wholesale plants from is one of the largest retailers in the Midwest of perennials. And I trust them. I think they do a great job. They send us beautiful plants. They're in these, what they call Ellie plugs when they come. I just pulled some out last night when I put them in my barn, because obviously it's going to get too cold to leave them outside. I got the whole shipment now. These root balls were so packed with roots when I looked at them last night. They just amaze me. They ship them well. But what I really like about these people is they cultivar and they cross-pollinate, they hybridize the best of the best. They're looking for plants that have disease resistant, fantastic color, great growers, great root systems, and they also look for disease problems. So I'm very picky about where I buy hostas because of hosta virus X, which is a huge disease for that species. But Walters tests for that. They're not going to ship me plants with hosta virus X. But every time I go into a big box store like Menards, and this is all of them, Lowe's, Home Depot, this is just hostas. Now it's not all their plants. I see so much hosta virus X, and I know people are home putting those in their garden, and it is a disease that spreads very easily within the hostas. So I don't buy any hostas from big box stores, but I will buy all the other plants. But a lot of these retailers are getting them from Walters also. So what we're doing is we're buying them from Walters and we're selling them at the most reasonable rate we can to the public, because the object of this will make a very small amount of money so we can reinvest it in the community. But basically, what we want to supply you with good, healthy plants at a reasonable price. And then you'll know that these weren't picked out willy-nilly. I really am very fussy about what we buy and sell to you. So we're going to start with our lineup here. And Tom and I, we're talking about bee-friendly things. And he's asking about the possibility of a presentation on that. And I said, well, I just really don't know of a flower that bees don't like. Most of these plants will be bee friendly. But what you really want to look for is their favorite plants. A lot of pollinators plants, the ones they like the most are the umbral type flowers, where they're the small florets and they're kind of a flat landing pad that gives them so many flowers to pull that pollen from, because each one of these little teeny florets is full of pollen. So I really like to order, like this is Achillea again, and some people get disgusted with it because it can be a little seedy, but there's easy ways to control that with deadheading and deadheading plants, keep the seeds at bay, the seeding going. But a lot of these new cultivars really don't seed all over. I've had a couple of the ones I've ordered in the past few years, and I wish I had seeds from them, but they aren't seeding all over. Okay, so this is the other reason why you're looking for good pollinating plants. This is a vegetable garden. The more pollinators you have around this vegetable garden, as you can see, they planted plants around the outer edges. The more pollinators you bring in, the more beans you're going to have. You're going to have more peas, more strawberries. It's going to increase your yields. The more bees that you can, or just pollinators in general. Bees are awesome, the best, but you're going to be helping your vegetable garden too. So Now I plant a lot of pollinators because I do hybridizing. I start about 500 different varieties of hostas a year. And I collect seed from, I hybridize some of them and some I collect from open pollinating, which means I didn't force the issue. I just let the bees do the work for me. So I want pollinators all over my yard because I want good seed set on the hosta flowers. Nothing's better than this. This is a pollinator bee magnet. So this plant was first brought to my attention from Tracy DeSabo Ost, who's I think wrote the best book on perennials ever. And I bet you that book is 20 years old, and I still haven't found a book as well written about perennials as Tracy DeSabo Ost. But this is her favorite plant to use in landscaping. Now, if you're allergic to bees, don't put this by your desk, because this literally would be a massively just covered all day long. But I love this Augustachi Blue Fortune. Blue Fortune was her favorite cultivar. Heavily flowers. If you trim it back, the side shoots flower. It'll go on for a really long time in the summer. Smells great. It has if you rub your hands up the stems, it smells like licorice, minty licorice. It's really got great smell to it. That said, this is very, very deer resistant. And actually, I've never had rabbits eat it either. So because rabbits and deer don't like anything that's in the Menthe family. And one thing about the Menthe family, though, is extremely aggressive plant group. So, but I highly recommend this plant. All these plants that you're going to see tonight are going to be available at our plant sale. And, it seems like a shameless plug, but the thing of it is that they're just great plants. I mean, they're such a great variety, but I'm only going to be ordering things that are brand new to the market that I think are garden worthy. So you'll have the best and the newest. This is an old fashioned plant. This is going to be one of their newer varieties called Fiesta Time. And this is a hollyhock. So it says it's deer and rabbit resistant. And I've actually never had deer or rabbits touch hollyhock. Okay, this is another plant that is very deer and rabbit resistant. Also phenomenal pollinator plant. Very, 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 bees love this plant, but deer and rabbits hate this plant because it actually is an ornamental onion. So all your foliage is going to smell like onions. Here it is in one of my favorite gardens in the, one of my favorite gardeners it's in El Dorado, Wisconsin. I think it's outside of Oshkosh. This is Larry Conrad's garden. And you can see what a beautiful repeat this is in this garden. Just gorgeous. I think it's well worth your while to friend Larry Conrad on Facebook because he posts like 10 postings a day of his garden and they're just stunning pictures. Okay, this is, I love this plant because this blooms towards the fall when everything is starting to look kind of icky and browned out and the flowers are spent. This plant's just starting up. So beautiful, just a riot of flowers, really deep color. But what's neat about it is that it also has attractive foliage. This is another thing I look at. Does it have more than one thing to interest me? And so while you're waiting for it to flower, it looks like a beautiful ground cover. So it's really, really nice. This is columbine. Guys get a couple of them because they're charming cottage garden flowers, but they keep making the flowers much, much bigger and showier. So this is the blue variety. And here's the pink variety. This is Asclepias, which is butterfly weed. Once again, super bee friendly, really, really great pollinator plant. This is a prairie plant actually, and I see it growing on the way to Shawano and some of the more rural areas. You see it growing right on the side of the road. It likes sandier, well-draining soils, rock garden situations. Sorry. In a little hint about when you're shopping for plants, just so you can kind of look for things that, like let's say you put in a rock garden or a raised bed with great drainage. The smaller these leaves are, if you see tiny leaves, that means full sun. Normally, plants always break rules, but in general, smaller the leaf, the more sun the plant is going to insist on, because it doesn't have a big sun catcher like a hosta, which will put up with shade because it has a huge area to grab sunlight from. So that said too, small leaves means it will have less watering needs, because it's not transpiring water as easily as a big giant hosta leaf. So that's why hostas like a lot more moisture, where these plants are very, very drought tolerant. Okay, there's so many of these lady ferns, Ethereum ferns that have been coming out in the market. There's so many different names. I had a slide showing them all, but I really honestly can't hardly tell the difference between most of them. You know, like there'll be Silver Falls one, and there'll be Red Regal, and all different kinds. But this one I ordered this year because, well, first of all, I like ferns in the garden, and this will have a silvery look to it. But it's called crested surf because the top of them have like a little twist to them. So it's a plant with a lot of interest. Now, you're going to see a lot of these plants are portrayed in pots. Well, I just showed you a great situation where I put these in my garage, and literally I've started doing a lot more like hoopers and stuff, putting on pots in my garden in the pots. The pots can be beautiful themselves and add a splash of color. And then you add that hoopera or another perennial on top. Perennials, putting them in a unheated garage or a attached garage over the winter, and just pop that puppy out in the spring, and you put some Osmocote on it, which is a slow release fertilizer. I use the 3-month vegetable fertilizer because it's a 14-14-14. So it's got a nice amount of nutrients for the plant. Put that on once a year in the spring, water it, good to go. Okay, so I love Baptisias, and but these make a huge statement in your garden. They are deer resistant. I've never had rabbit damage. I can't swear to it, but Walter's Garden says it's deer resistant. And I have several of these that I have never had them eaten up by deer, but they have beautiful, beautiful flowering. But the shrub itself, now this is a large plant. It can be 36 by 36 inches. So it's going to be shrub-like. But it has really gray green leaves, so they're very, very attractive. Beautiful flowers. And then also these dry into phenomenal seed heads. So these can be harvested in winter or left up for winter interest. And you can harvest them and make wreaths out of them or dried arrangements, and really beautiful. So I ordered maybe 3 or 4 varieties of them. But this is the other variety. This is brand new to the market, called Burgundy Blast. So this is going to have like a like a pinky purple look to it, and that's a new color for this year. Burners are great for shade. They really lighten up a dark area in your garden. Rabbit and deer resistant. I don't even like to touch them myself. They have a really rough, like sandpapery type leaf to them. But they have beautiful forget-me-not type flowers in the spring. And then and they're so great looking that I don't mind them when they're not flowering, because they're just really great accent to the garden. Okay, so we're all used to the standard clematis. This one is called Rain Dance, and it's different because it's a bush clematis. Now I have like 3 bush clematises, and I just absolutely love them. You should give them a little support. You can see here they have a little support on them. They're not vining, and they're not even really clingy. So, but if you support them, they're like just a bushel basket of color, really, really pretty. So kind of underused. This is new to the market this year. This is this one's been around for a couple years. I ordered a few delphiniums, some from one from Walters, and the rest from Radke's, which I'll talk about later because I'll have a whole set of flowers I get from them. But all the ones you're seeing right now are coming from Walters Gardens. This one's called Pink Punch. I just think it's a beautiful color. Okay, and this is a dianthus, which is a pink, brand new color to the market. It's very, very intense. Echinaceas, I always order a few different ones, brand new to the market every year. And so this one is, let me see if I get rid of that ribbon. No, I can't. Okay, go back. Okay, so this one is going to be kind of a coral color, but it's got a great pronounced cone on it. So I think it's gonna be very attractive. And I love single flowers because single flowers tend not to flop as much as these. Although this has been on the market for about, I'd say 10 years now. It's hot papaya. This is an outstanding echinacea. I order it every single year because this one comes, some of the echinaceas, the newer ones are really touchy about wintering over, but not this one. This comes back year after year for me. And it's just a riot of color in the garden. They're deer resistant, the echinaceas are, and they are very bee friendly. Here it is in a garden setting. You can see this is just a really difficult color to find in a garden. So it looks fantastic with these delphiniums here. Okay, now this one I saw in a friend's garden. The powwows have been out for a while. This is a new color in the powwow series, but hers is outstanding. It comes back year after year. That's what I'm looking for. That's why I get into gardens and see if they trialed some of our plants also, because I can't grow every one of them. And hers color was stunning. This cone, this orangey cone with that plant was just beautiful. Really, really good plant, really strong grower. And you can, a hint of that is when you see that the species is purpurea here, all the plants that I've ordered are from this species. And that's that really tough pink one, that your standard cone flower. And when they're hybridizing out of that, I think we're gonna have really good plants. Okay, so this plant is so underplanted. This is a great shade plant. It will take dry shade. So if you can't find something, it'll grow underneath that maple tree. Once these are established, they will grow really well under your maple tree. They have beautiful spring color. This is the spring color. Then they turn greenish, a dark greenish, and then this is the fall color again. This one has white flowers, but last year I ordered 18 different cultivars of them, and actually like 5 different species, and then several cultivars, because to me, they are just absolutely underused, but they're really, really tough in the garden. You don't hear about them much, but they'll take shade to part shade. This is Eryngium, sea holly. It's very painful, but it's bee friendly. It's deer resistant because it's very painful to touch. So, so you could have fun in the garden and say, come over here and just feel this plant. I'm just kidding. It'd be mean. But I really like it because when you find the plant painful, so do other creatures. So that's what I like. This is a really hard color to find for a flowering color. Very, very intense, but I love sea hollies. This one's really a shorty too. It's only gonna be 6 to 8 inches. So it's gonna be nice front of the border plant. This will need very, very good drainage. This would be a great plant to put with your butterfly weed. So it's gonna like, not wet feed at all. So this would be great in a rock garden or a raised bed situation. I always order a Gaillardia. I don't notice that they're coming out with new cultivars in Gaillardias. So, but maybe they don't come out with them because the old ones are just fantastic. So this is a cute plant. I like the seed heads on this plant when it's done blooming. I don't think the foliage is much to write home about, but it's so covered with flowers all through the summer that you're not going to be looking at the foliage anyway. And this is deer resistant and bee friendly. This is my favorite geranium, only because it's so tough and it flowers from June until frost. It never stops flowering. And this will take shade to full sun. The more sun you give it, the more flowers you're going to have. But I love it because it'll weave up between my hostas, and all of a sudden you'll see these blue flowers up above the plants. And it's really a really sweet geranium. This has been around for a very long time, but I reorder it every year because of its exceptional growing habit. Genetian, never mind. Yeah, Genetian. Okay, this one is a rock garden plant. So it is also an absolute stunning cobalt blue color. So you're going to want to give this really, really, really great drainage. And It's going to be deer resistant, really, really, really beautiful plant. I rarely order this. I thought we just throw it into the mix this year because they had them available, and I hear nothing but great things from them. I watched Larry Conrad's post, and he grows this also. I usually order this every year too because it's so unique. It's a tough plant, but it's a really tall plant with variegated foliage, loves full sun. I never had deer eat this, but it didn't say specifically it was deer resistant, but in my yard, it always has been. So, but really charming pink flowers. I mean, yellow flowers, but this one blooms later in the season. And that's another reason I like it. When the gardens are pooping out, this one's just coming in, you know, probably around maybe the second week in August, it'll start and it'll bloom till frost. Then here we have hellebores. This is a picture Larry Conrad took of a nice dance of hellebore. And it must have been that April that we had 8 inches of snow. So I wanted to show you how tough these plants are. Mine are coming up, they're blooming right now. And we know what is blooming right now, not much, but the hellebores are. And these plants are superior garden plants. They will bloom for at least 2.5 months. When they're done blooming, the foliage is as pretty as the plants, the flowers, I mean. So here's 3 varieties that we ordered. This one's French Kiss. And rabbits and deer hate these plants. And they're not fun to, the leaves aren't fun to touch, but they won't, it's not like, won't hurt you like the sea holly will. So here's another one we've ordered, Mother of the Bride. And my very favorite, True Love. And I like it because it's just got so much color variation in that flower. This is a double, but look at how pretty it looks with the yellow stamens. It's just beautiful. Okay, now we'll get into the heucheras because every year they come out with a few new ones. I used to order just the loads of them, but I just think there's so many on the market and some of them are looking quite the same. I'll give you an example of that in the next couple slides. But I like to order a couple of the brand new ones because people do collect these. And I still think heucheras grown in a pot is one of the best ways to grow heucheras because they really show off in the garden when you grow them in a pot. Now this is a really adorable one. And when you go back to this one, it's not in flower, and this one might have decent flowers. I'm going to assume it doesn't because they're not showing off the flowers in their picture. This one, it's got phenomenal looking, really silver leaves, but it also has a great flower display. So when heucheras first came out and they started getting all those phenomenal colors, they just let the flowers go to the side. I mean, literally you cut them off because they were just doing nothing for the plant whatsoever. But now they're breeding for both. They're breeding for a great flower display and a great leaf display. So the hybridizing world is so amazing. Okay, so this one is Toffee Tart, I think. I can't see the name because I have a ribbon up above there. But I like it because it's got a really, really great copper color. It does have kind of pretty flowers, which most of the old ones did not. And I like the leaf shape on that. And when you mass them together, they really, really have a neat effect on the garden. So that's what I was trying to tell you is that I think this one is like orange marmalade or something, where the one I just showed you is Toffee Tart. So they're very similar. And so that's why I do order them if they have new names, mostly for collectors and stuff. But basically, either one would be fine. They'd all both be great in the garden. This is another one of my favorite plants. I did order that. They'll be on the Radke part of the presentation. But this is Coreopsis moonbeam, one of my absolute favorite plants. Okay, this is another one, another heuchera. Really, really, really intense veining on this one. And you can see once again, they're really showing it off in a pot. Because these plants like great drainage, the pot works really well. Now, heucherellas are a little different story. This is called Heucherella Catching Fire. And because heucherellas were they are from a Terriella, and Terriellas are a woodland plant. And so this plant will probably do really well in the soil in woodsy type soils and conditions. And this will take more shade. I think the heucheras will take a lot more sun. Now we get to my favorite part of the presentation where we talk about the hostas. So this is an older fashioned variety, but I think it's really has great, it has great size. It's 24 inches, so it's not a huge hosta, but it's got really clean color to it. Nice thick leaves too, so very slug resistant. And then I just ordered all brand new varieties. So here's the new ones coming up. This one is called Dancing with Dragons, and it's got just really neat leaf form. Now, one of the main hybridizers, probably the absolute main hybridizer at Walter's Gardens is called Hans Hansen. And he does, I think most of their hybridizing for new heucheras, new hostas, new hibiscus, all kinds. He's got his hands dabbling with those flowers all over the whole plant. Now, one of his big passions was hostas. So one of his passions is hostas with blue leaves. So he released a lot of them this year with wavy blue leaves, long blue leaves, all kinds of blue leaves. So this one's Dancing with Dragons. This one is Hope Springs Eternal. They're both the other one's a little smaller than this one. This one's got a lot of movement, lots of ruffling in the leaves. This one's called Party Streamers. Looks really adorable in a pot. And this is right where I'd put this hostas in a pot. I wouldn't even put this one in the ground myself. 12 inches, so it really shows off. This one's Sister Act. It's going to have very thick leaves, so it's going to be very slug resistant. Tears in Heaven, another blue one, but this one's only going to be 15 inches tall. And Wind Beneath My Wings, totally different leaf shape with a lot of really tight ruffling. These all make my heart patter really fast. I really love these. Okay, I have to get out of that situation. Okay, so now we got English lavender, which we could really not grow English lavender because we were too cold. And it couldn't put up with our winters. But now our winters are much warmer and they have newer, tougher cultivars that can put up with our winters. Now lavenders are going to like a very a raised bed situation. They don't like to be wet. You'll see them turn all brown and die out very quickly if you make them too wet. So I always recommend these in rock gardens or along sidewalks would be pretty good because that's a lot more heat there. They will like full sun for good bloom. And you can tell they want full sun because they got really tiny leaves. So, okay, this is I only buy this ligularia. There's other ligularias that are on the market. Well, I mean, this species of ligularia. So there are other species that have flowers that are more rock. They're like long, elongated flowers. And this is a daisy-like flower. But I just love the part of this where it's a great landscape plant. It's got very dark leaves. The more sun you give it, the darker the leaves will be. They're good sized leaves, so this is going to have a lot of moisture. I also call this my flag plant in the garden because if I have an established ligularia and it starts flagging if you have really, we get those 90-degree days. If this plant starts flagging and starts laying down, that means my garden's very dry. But if it stands up again after the sun goes down, then I don't water yet. But if it doesn't stand up after the sun goes down, then your whole garden needs to be watered. So this is a good indicator plant, but it's also just really great landscape plant. And how I buy these is I look at the back of the leaves. If they're really dark, the darker the back of the leaf is, the darker the front of the leaf will be. So when you're shopping, kind of look at some of the characteristics because they do vary. And this has got a great flower display on it. Here it is used in a landscaping situation. I think that's just stunning against the green and the flowering perennials behind there. Okay, so now we get into some Ice Shasta Daisy. This is a shorty. It's 12 to 24 inches. I would say it's going to be 12, maybe 14 inches. I like the shorter ones because they don't go like that. When they start getting tall and leggy and you get one rainstorm, all the Shasta daisies are laying on the ground. So I like these shorter ones. These are bred to have stiffer stems and really clean white color, really pretty. Okay, this is, this is another foil in the garden because it's got very, very dark leaves, very dark red stems with really pretty flowers, a very difficult color to find, and it's really fun to mix reds into the garden. This looks great, great with delphiniums. So, and it is deer and rabbit resistant. These two are a little bit naughty in the seeding area because I do find them all over, but they're really easy. Just most of the time I find them in my grass. I just keep mowing them until they give up on me. I do always order lupine because it's just a great cottage garden plant. It has really nice foliage, beautiful flowers. They do have seed heads, but I don't think they're attractive, so I've cut them off. But when you're done, you still have a great looking green plant because the foliage is beautiful. See, how can you go wrong with that? There was a garden, I think 3 years ago, we had the Green Bay Green and Gold Hospice Society hosted the national convention in Green Bay, and they had some beautiful, beautiful gardens on display. And this one gardener, her hostas were stunning, but she had the largest bed of lupin anybody ever saw, and they were stunning. And that's what a lot of people were talking about, is that lupin. They kept saying, did you see the lupin? Did you see the lupin? I'm like, I mean, you're there to look at hostas, but this plant blew them away. Okay, so now we've got some bee balms, super bee friendly. That's why it's called bee balm. Deer resistant, rabbit resistant, and the cultivars that they're coming up with are amazing. This is this is called the Sugar Buzz series, new to the bee balm world. They're 14 to 16 inches tall. So they're really, really great in the garden. They have a smelly leaf, which is minty. This is in the mint family. That's why it spreads like crazy. But they're starting to breed them so they have a lot darker foliage, which I really think is attractive. But this has got like a two-tone color to it. Very, very, really pretty. This is just released this year. This is another one called Electric Neon Coral, and it has just a little bit different flower type. Two-tone again with the white and the pink. A little taller, 20 to 22 inches. They're so garden hardy. They're just really, really tough plants. And this one's only 10 to 14 inches tall. And it's well, I can't see it, but I think it says something raspberry, but another unique color, really pretty. Okay, so this was Perennial of the Year last year. It's Cat's Pajamas. It's a great improvement over Walker's Low because it's shorter. So it's not going to go boom. It's not going to split as badly in like heavy rain or when it's kind of pooping out from flowering. A lot more flowers, a lot more intense color. Only 12 to 14 inches tall. I think it's like if you don't give these things full sun, they get a little leggy. And I think this one will do better in a little part sun. There is a difference. It says full sun to part shade, but I would not go part shade on this. I would put it in more light. But it's also deer and rabbit friendly. I mean, not friendly, unfriendly, so they don't like it. So I think it's really, really a cute plant. This is like a new thing, but in flower. This is ornamental oregano. I didn't look up if you could eat it. I'm not sure about that, or if you could dry it for herbs. You might be able to. You probably can, but I looked it up. But it has stunning purple flowers on this yellowish foliage, and it's very, very deer and rabbit resistant because it smells like oregano. Great seed heads when they start drying in the fall. So a lot more than one season of interest. Very, very cute plant. And just good old Oriental poppy. So I still think that put in the middle of a border so you can't see their foliage after they're done blooming. I think they're still just a charming garden plant. This is a new penstemon called Ox and Pearls, and the contrast between the white flowers and the dark foliage is very, very pretty. So I don't think this is deer or rabbit resistant, but still you can put a little deer off spray on it. Okay, so every year I think that they come out with a different Russian sage, and I think what they're looking for when they do that is, see how tight this is? It's not rangy looking. So I think they start breeding this to have a tighter habit, because some of them, I've had them before where one branch is over here and one branch is over there. And yeah, it looks okay in certain situations, but I think it's nice if it's tighter and is more bush-like. Now, once again, you can see it has very, very small leaves. So it's going to like drier conditions, not wet feet. So, you know, when you're starting to think about setting up your garden, you're going to want to think of the culture of the flower bed itself. I mean, you're not going to want to put this plant next to a hosta. Well, I guess I do have it next to a hosta, but mine does look a little rangy. But you're going to want to give it cultural conditions. Like this would be great with echinaceas, or I mean, coneflowers. It's going to be great. Even phlox would put up with it. So, I mean, it would put up with the conditions, wouldn't be too wet for them. Monarda would be amazing with this plant. And actually a little drier conditions on your Monarda will keep it from spreading wildly. Okay, so now they have all kinds of different phlox available now, but what's cool about the phlox they're doing is they have they're 12 to 16 inches instead of 4 feet tall. And they're breeding all the phlox to be as extreme, as mildew resistant as possible. So my favorite phlox for mildew resistance is the paniculatas. I don't know if this is in that species, but it's very, very charming because it's smaller. Then this one is called Kung Fuchsia. It's just got a beautiful color. I do believe that this one is a paniculata. So this is 16 to 18 inches tall. So they are, oh, the cat's going to do something. Okay, so very, very intense color. This is their brand new one. This one is just absolutely stunning because it's got a two-tone effect with these flowers. So that means the flowers that are older are probably turning more blue. This is a paniculata. You can see right up here. Really, bees love this. Great, another great pollinator plant. So really pretty. This is Rudbeckia. This has been around a while. This is Gold Rush. I apologize. We've got a new cat and he's doing cat things. So anyway, this is called American Gold Rush. It's supposed to be a lot more resistant to septorial leaf spot, which is those little black spots you get on these Rudbeckias or black-eyed Susans. And it's just supposed to be a superior plant to your old-fashioned one. This is a new salvia called, I think it's Bumbleberry, but I love it. It's so cute. It's got, what I love is the contrast here, because it's got the purple stems, which I love. And it's, this is a numerosa. So this one is going to be kind of like May Night, but I haven't grown it yet, but I'm hoping it's going to have better structure than May Night. But because it's got the purple stems, I don't think it's going to look as hideous as May Night does, which is another salvia after it's done blooming, because it still has the purple stems. But it's got like light pink flowers. I think the contrast with the stem and the flower is really beautiful. Deer don't like this because this one really stinks. I mean, not bad. I mean, it just has odor to it. It's because it's in the mint bale. Okay, here's a sedum called Night Embers, really dark foliage with bright pink flowers, good contrast. This is another cottage garden plant, trellis, and it's a bullflower, and it's not widely grown, and I think it should be in everybody's garden. You'll like moist conditions. It'll take some shade, and but its claim to fame is going to be the flower. So it's a plant that I would put behind another plant. Like you might want this one behind one of the shorter phlox, or the possibly behind like the salvia or something, because the foliage on this one is not as attractive, but it's still a beautiful flower, and it is very bee friendly. And here's viola. I always order these for one member of our Master Gardener Association. His name is David. He loves violas. So every year I order a batch of violas for him. So, okay, now this is the other place we get our perennials from. This is called Radke. I think they're down by Menominee Falls, and they are also a wholesaler. So we only use the two companies, but this is the meat and potato plants. So these plants, they don't introduce new cultivars, and they also have your old fashioned great plants. They're field grown. They ship them into us on Friday before the plant sale. They're already potted and doing really well. But I like Walters for all the new hybridizing they do, but I like this one for just good garden standard plants. So here we go. So this is one of my favorite Actaeas, and this is Baneberry. It's a woodland plant, but it's called doll's eyes. So when it's done blooming, which the blooms are pretty, but not like the seed heads. You grow this for the seed heads. It's just really pretty in the garden. Great woodland plant. Okay, so if I had to pick an insomnia that has shorter stature, this was perennial of the year. I can't remember what year it was. It was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But it has stunning sky blue flowers. It doesn't get real tall. It's 20 inches tall. This is the fall color. Just really, but this has clean foliage, so it looks really, really nice out of bloom also. But that fall color is just something we're looking for late in the season. This is a picture from the Chicago Botanical Gardens, and this was picked as one of their absolute favorite cultivars. So this is another fall blooming anemone. I showed you that one at the very beginning that we're getting from Walters, but this is the original cultivar that was out on the market for many, many, many years, but such a stunning, good growing plant. Definitely, it's a lighter pink, but it's got great blooms. It's great for insects and pollinators who are looking for a fall hit before they go to sleep. So great plant. This is Passiflower. I just think these are so charming in the spring. They come up with just a touch later than bulbs. You can see right here, it's super bee friendly because there's a guy right there. And the seed heads are just charming. So this is an ephemeral, so it's going to kind of melt away after a while, but very, very pretty. Unusual color. Here it is in front of a rock. I think it enhances the rock. Really beautiful. Okay, and so this is Passiflower. And then here you've got hellebores. And I thought I saw, and this is, my favorite. This is epimediums, all different kinds here. Okay, and then we got, this is the Grandmother's Garden Group. This is just Columbine. I had to learn all the Latin names when I took an intense perennial course in Green Bay. And the teacher was very strict. And so sometimes I can hardly recall the common name because he just said, you have to know the Latin name. And it's true. The Latin name gives you the species. Okay, so I only order asters from Radke because if I order them from Walters, they'll look dead in the pot because the asters come up very, very late because they're fall blooming. So I ordered these from Radke, so it looks like there's a plant in the pot when we go to sell it. But these asters, you'll see the purple dome, which is the next aster. They're both the same, but except for one's pink. The Almopachki is stunning. Purple dome is stunning. But you see the New England asters blooming all over on the side of the road and stuff. And these are just cultivars of those. Another great thing about this is that these are going to help your fall pollinators, in the fall there when nothing else is blooming. This is a baptisia that is like a wild baptisia, but the reason I ordered this is because you can't find this anywhere. I can't believe Radke still sells this. This is, I think it's more of a native, and we have one at the extension office where we have the plant sale. And I looked at that and I thought, why is that blooming? Baptisias don't bloom that early, but this particular one does. So I always, because it's so unusual, that's the one thing I love about Radke, because they've been growing these plants that you can't find anymore. So they're great, a great wholesaler for that. And this one has been out for about 5 or 6 years, maybe longer, but I just think the combination of the dark the dark blue with the light blue on top. I think this is a stunning Baptisia. You can't have enough Baptisias unless you don't have a lot of room, then you shouldn't be growing Baptisias. The one thing that's really cool about these plants, or maybe not cool if you like to change the furniture in the garden, these don't transplant well because they're tap rooted. This will outlive you. This plant is amazing. It puts down a very deep root. So you put it where you want it. This is wine cups. Now, this is a low growing plant and I have it in my garden and it's lived through me torturing it. This is another plant that you just can't find anywhere. That's why I like to order it, because I want to have stuff that's different than the other nurseries that are selling things. This literally blooms from mid-June until fall, but it has the most intense, I don't even know if you could call it pink. It's like, it's just, oh, it's like a raspberry pink, really intense flowers. Now I'll show you the little stance I'm going to have in this next picture. Now you can't, this is my Acanthus. This is my raspberry bee balm, and there's some globe thistle here. And right here is that plant I just showed you. But it's really got stunning flowers, really pretty. This is a campanula, blue waterfall, really pretty plant. So this is an old fashioned, you can't find this anywhere either, except for maybe Radke's. This is valerian or Centranthus. Now this is butterfly magnet city and bees and anything. Just love this plant. See all the little small florets? That's what they just absolutely love. This is a great old fashioned garden plant. You rarely see it in gardens. I wouldn't say that the foliage knocks my socks off. I'd probably put this behind something more attractive, but just for the pollinators alone, it's really a charming plant. Okay, here's some clematis. This is your regular vining clematises. This is Duchess of Edinburgh. This one is, if anybody grows sweet autumn clematis, blooms later in the season. Very, 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 really, really aggressive plant. I mean, not in a terrible naughty way, just a mound of foliage. And then this is their cultivar up in that. I think it's been out about 3 or 4 years, called Sweet Summer Love. And it's like sweet autumn clematis, but in the purples and blues. Here's Polish Spirit, another just great garden clematis. And here's my plant I love so much. Remember, narrow leaves, puts up with a lot of dry, hot sun. But this has got this color in the garden. This soft lemon is so pretty. Now there's another one, Coreopsis, called Zagreb. I don't like it as much. It's coarser and it's got a very dark, intense yellow. And I think this one just blends better in the garden with many different colors. Really, really pretty plant. And once this is done kind of petering out, blooming, then you can shear this off and it will come back with blooms. Really charming. Here it is in a huge sweep of color. With you can see that they like the same culture. This is Russian sage. This will put up with a lot of dry, well-drained soil. Here's some Laetris in the back. Grasses always blend a garden together. And here's some Echinacea in the back over here. Really well done. And here's a couple other just standard, you know, your elatum delphiniums. This one's Black Knight, and this one's got a dark bee. They call this part in the middle of the bee against a cobalt blue flower. And here it is with a white bee with a little bit lighter, very, very intense blue. This one's called Cherry Blossom. And this is a great garden picture. You've got some allium in the front here. You've got some lupin right here. You've got delphinium here, delphinium back here. Really, really pretty garden setting. Okay, and here's Dianthus. This one was Perennial of the Year in 2006 because it just has amazing color formation. I mean, it's just the brightest pink, but it's got the grayest foliage on the bottom. So when this is done blooming, which it will sporadically bloom all summer, the foliage looks great. Here is a little batch of it in this garden setting here. It just punches up the color here. So this looks like scabosia that was not super hardy here. I don't really usually order that. I did not order it. Some heucheras, very pretty. Okay, here's digitalis. This is mertenensis. This one is very hardy in our northern settings. Most of them are not. There's one called Ludia that is truly perennial, and that's like more of a yellow color. I'm not a big fan of it. It doesn't knock my socks off with the flower. But this one is, it's a biennial, but it really, really has beautiful foliage and a good grower. And here it is right here in a garden setting. I like the foliage on this one too. Very pretty. This is, I think this one is just, this is a prairie plant called Polita. And it's just, I love the casual sweeping down. And this is an echinacea or coneflower. So I love the way that petals are back, you know, they fall down. They're beautiful. Okay, so this is Joe Pyeweed. Joe Pyeweed usually gets 8 to 10 feet tall. And then they came up with Little Joe that got 8 feet tall. And now they have Baby Joe that gets only 24 or 30 inches tall. This one has got stiff purple stems, clean looking foliage. My Joe Pyeweed is, I have the 8-foot tall version. I think it's called Gateway. That thing does, we get a big snowstorm. I mean, not snowstorm, we have had that late in April, but please no. This one just pollinators love this plant. So, so this is the one I'd buy because the 12-foot version is pretty, it can get pretty rangy and start falling apart on you. This one's going to be staying together better. If I think it's going to flop, I just put fishing line around the whole plant to hold it together. But Baby Joe, I don't think should flop. I think it's going to be pretty sturdy. Okay, and this is Gia Mai Tai. I don't know why people don't buy this. I ordered this, but we have a hard time selling it, but I gave it another shot this year. This was absolutely raved about at the Chicago Botanical Garden reviews, perennial reviews. Beautiful foliage. It looks like a real low ground cover. It's got these dancing, charming, salmon colored flowers, very difficult color to get in the garden. Purple stems, really, really pretty plant. This is a really light, airy plant. I've been growing this for years. It's just so, I don't know, it's just so fairy-like. It's just charming with these little flowers, and it's got really nice looking foliage. I never see it for sale anywhere, ever. That's why I'm surprised to be able to still get it. Hekinacloa grass, which is Japanese forest grass, I think it's called. These are great on the sides of ponds, next to hostas. They like shade. We'll put up with part shade. Really great flowing looking plant. I do believe this is alba stricto, so it's going to, alba means white, so it's going to have stripes. Hepatica, a good woodland plant. So really cute, great foliage. And this is the one hooker I buy from Bradkey because I really like it. It's an old-fashioned one. It's you can see the flowers are okay, but the foliage, it just looks like a begonia. It's got elongated leaves, very cut, really pretty. These are my favorite heucherellas. This is Solar Eclipse, very difficult to find, but these are called trailing heucherellas, and they look wonderful in pots. This is the other Redstone Falls, beautiful coloring, very tough plant. My friend put hers in a pot, it trailed all down the pot onto her ground, and it rooted wherever it touched the ground. So this will make you lots more plants, but really pretty. Carangiosoma palmata. This one has great leaf color, does like the shade. It's very late blooming. So if you put this in a little more sun, it might bloom sooner. Very unusual plant. You hardly ever see this anywhere. I think it's called yellow wax bells. Tall plant too, 20 to 24 inches. Mine got at least 24 inches. I thought it was more like 30. Just for fun, sweet peas. A different kind of lavender, Blue River. It's going to be, and this was 1999's perennial herb of the year. So same cultural information, just a different type. This is called Becky. This is a Shasta daisy that is tall, but has very, very thick stems. So this is going to stand up, unlike your other Shasta daisy, your old-fashioned ones that kind of you know, if the wind takes them or the rain takes them, they don't come back up again. This one's great. Oopsie Daisy, just like a bowl of flowers. Banana Cream, just a different color. And this one's shorter, 15 to 18 inches. We always sell out of these every year. They're gone. This is a Asiatic lily. So this is called Landini, nice dark red. I have a couple of those in my garden. This is an Oriental lily. This is going to have phenomenal smell with it. Beautiful, can just scent the whole garden. I have a big Hypericum bush. I mean, it's not big. It's like 3 feet tall by 3 feet wide. Yellow, beautiful yellow flowers, great pollinator shrub. I know you can do something with the roots, but I don't ever do that. I just like the plant itself. This is a herb, actually. It's considered an herb, but it's a shrub in my yard. It's actually a shrub. So this is a linum or blue flax. This will like seed itself all over your garden. It'll just be charming. It'll be just like really light and airy and beautiful, beautiful powder blue flowers. More lupins for people that only want the red, because the other one is mixed variety. I love Mercanthus grasses. Well, I like all the grasses, but this one is called Little Zebra because it's got stripes in the leaves, and it won't get as large as the Mercanthus, a normal Mercanthus can get. And this is one of my favorites. This is called Mercanthus Morning Light. Really light and airy, just beautiful plant. Great garden plant because it doesn't take up a ton of room. Another Monarda called Coral Reef. This one is going to be your normal standard height, but pretty clear flower, clear pink flowers. This I know it's in everybody's garden. I know you can share it with people, but every year they come to plant sale and say, do you have any raspberry wine Monarda or bee balm? And it's one of my absolute favorites. I never have powdery mildew on this plant. It's really a tough plant, but it's got an intense, beautiful flower. There it is in my garden mixed with the globe thistle. And this is a really tiny one called Fireball. So it's red, it's got improved foliage, so it's not going to be as prone to powdery mildew, and it looks great in this pot. And you can grow them in pots, and you might even be able to leave this one outside in a pot. It's tough. I ordered a couple of the Itopeonies, and these are a cross between a tree peony and a herbaceous peony. Herbaceous peony being your normal ones that die back to the ground. Tree peonies obviously are tree peonies, and they crossed them. It took years and years and years and years to cross them because tree peonies have tons of great big giant flowers, but yet this dies back to the ground for winter hardiness. And this is a regular herbaceous peony called Shirley Temple, and this one's called soft salmon. And here's another one. Old Rose Dandy, really pretty color. Now these are going to be, the 2 tree peonies are going to be very pricey. I don't know what the price is, but it'll probably be over $35. But they're very long lived in your garden, really long lived, beautiful plants, well worth the money. And think about it, when you go out to dinner, it's $35. So really it's a good investment because you're going to have this year after year. Okay, so a couple not new ones, but great. I love these. Are some of my favorite blocks. This is Blue Boy. This one is Blue Paradise. They're a little bit different. This is my absolute favorite called Nikki because it's got this deep, intense purple. I never have powdery mildew on this. Deep, intense purple, and then at night they look this bluish color. Very pretty. Some balloon flower. This is Pollinatorium. This is, I can't remember the common name for this, but it's a great shade plant. It's light colored, it's got really wispy foliage, pretty blue, sky blue flowers. Jacob's Ladder, that's what the name was. Okay, and this is a red bells, Pulsatilla vulgaris, very pretty. My favorite salvia, Caradonna, because it always looks good in or out of bloom. Transcantia, I don't usually recommend spiderworts to people because they do go all over the garden, but this one is unique. This is a great cultivar of this one. It's yellow and it's got these intense blue flowers. I think this is so garden worthy. I gave a presentation in Green Bay about, maybe a week and a half ago, and people that have this in their garden raved about it. It's really, really pretty. I've never had it seed in my yard. I wished it would. Okay, and then there's the Primula, drumstick primrose. These need good moisture. This is Indian Summer Rudbeckia. And this one, I hope we get it. I couldn't get it from Walters. They're always sold out. And I ordered Walters plants 2 years in advance and it was still sold out. But Racky says they have them and I hope we're gonna get them. This is the most beautiful plant. Beautiful two-toned red and yellow in my garden, blooms for a long time, starts blooming around the 1st of July. Siberian ice, this has got a silver edge. They call it silver edge, clever. Veronica Royal Candles, very intense blue. This one is prone to powdery mildew, so I would put this behind something else. Another viola. Wisteria. We used to never be able to grow wisteria here in Wisconsin, but this is the Kentucky wisteria and it's very hardy here. It's super hardy here. Really, really pretty blooms. That will be offered at the plant sale. Here it is in bloom again. And now I just ordered a few shrubs. This is a blueberry bush that you can put in a pot. This is currant. Bushes are all the rave now, these fruiting bushes to put in your garden. So we had to have them, of course. Gooseberry. And my daughter has these. She loves them because they taste just like blueberry, but they're actually in the honeysuckle family. And this is obviously in the blueberry family because it's Vaccinium. So if you go back, you can see this is honeysuckle because it's Linacera. So, okay. And then there's just a poster for our plant sale. So that will be, you'll see this information. Now this, it says the 4th annual plant sale, but that means the 4th year that we've done. We are all the wild ones, the garden club and us all have a plant sale on the same day. So you can go around to all 3 sites and shop to your heart's content. We've had our plant sale well over 20 years, 2018, something like that. I've been ordering plants for a long time. Okay, and see you at the plant sale. That's it.
Awesome. Well, we'll be taking some questions now. We had one about the plant sale, which you just answered. It's going to be Saturday, May 21st from 8 to 2. So if anyone's got any questions, you can drop them in the chat or the Q&A. Doesn't look like we have any right now. Everyone's overwhelmed with their lists.
Well, they can firm up the list when they see your YouTube.
Yeah, yes, you can watch this again.
Slowly and, and decide, the best thing to do at that point is to kind of visualize what you're looking for in your garden. Go through this list. It's going to give you, I gave you an idea of how to look, what plants are going to want, what culture, raised beds, good drainage. The larger the leaf, they're going to want more moisture. So I gave you kind of a hint of what to look for, and then you can kind of make a list of colors you want to put together. Because I mean, this grouping that we're offering this year has just such a huge range of color with the bee balms and the phloxes. And I look for that on purpose so that you can create a very, very just show-stopping garden.
All right, so we have a couple questions here. Any suggestions for under pine trees?
Yes, those epimediums I was talking about. Now they're not easy to find. The source I was getting them from last year, she is not mail ordering anymore, and she had a huge offering of all different kinds. What was the other place? I always order them online because you just won't get the variety locally. So I ordered some, another place I saw, was it Seabright Gardens, I believe. Yes, I think they're out in Washington, and I've ordered them from them also. But epimediums would be a great choice once established. Now, you got to get them going for the first couple years to get a good root system, but they'll put up with dry shade.
Well, wouldn't that be a good place for doing some pots?
Yes, I agree, Tom. I think that pots, perennials in pots, but I mean, a hosta in a pot would be great there because you're gonna want something that's gonna take shade. So,
Right, because the evergreens will just suck the water right out of the ground.
they have
So there's a
very,
lot
very
of
fibrous root
competition.
systems. Yeah, a lot of competition. So I think Tom's got the best idea to use pots. Another plant that you could use would be lamium, laminastrum. It'll almost grow in a closet, but it can be, could be invasive. But I think in that situation, it's not going to be invasive. So laminastrum might be, it's called archangel. That might, and it's variegated, so it's going to have a light look to it under the pine tree, but you'd have to get it established.
Okay, and then we have one, which of the Radke grasses would you recommend that are deer resistant?
I have the most deer of anybody because my property backs up. If anybody knows this area, I live on Capitol Drive and we have solid swamp all the way out to, well, to JJ, Highway JJ. Nothing but tons. They go down my driveway in drifts all summer long. I've never had them touch a grass, not once. Actually, grasses don't feel good to touch, period. They have almost a razor feel to them when you took your hands and went up the blade. It's not a good feel. So I've never had them touch my grasses. Either one, they're both Macranthus. There is Calamagratis, which is a Carl Forester. That's the cultivar. The panicums are nice. They have light area flowers. There's all kinds of grasses. I just really don't think the deer are going to be that interested. They do love hostas though.
Can you recommend a ground cover not higher than cut grass?
You could use, I wouldn't recommend an ivy, but I think that they're on the invasive list now. Ground cover, not higher than grass.
Stone crop sedum.
Yeah, I think that would be an excellent idea, Tom. Very good. Yeah, and they will put up with dry conditions too. Yeah, because there are really low growing sedums.
Okay, besides hosta, what grows in shade?
Well, if you go back and look at the PowerPoint, I do have that information on each slide, almost every slide. Like some of the Radke slides are older, so maybe not, because I don't have to reproduce those slides every year because I always order the same plants. But on all the Walter's Garden slides, you'll see that cultural information on there. You'll say sun or shade. Hostas, my whole yard is shade, and I grow so many different things. The epimediums are great. The Jacob's ladder, that Jacob's ladder I showed it towards the end there is great in the shade. Oh man, daffodils are great in the spring. Pulmonaria. If you know, I didn't order any because for some reason we have a hard time selling it. The deer hate it, the rabbits hate it. Pulmonaria is a very low growing perennial with spotted leaves but beautiful blue flowers. That would be great. I have tons of that. I dig it up by the buckets load because it really moves around. Columbine does well in the shade.
Well,
Review
last,
this PowerPoint.
last month, Tammy Borden did a program on hosta companions, and which covers this very topic. So maybe a good resource would be go back to the YouTube presentation on that's available at the Kimberly Library.
Yeah, I think there's a shade plant one also on there. So that was done in the past.
It's so vast. It's huge. But on every slide, you'll say if it's shade tolerant.
Okay, so a lot of the cultivars were zone 6. Isn't that iffy here?
There would be only one that I saw that was zone 6, and that would be that epimedium. The rest of them are 5A, 5B, 4, 3, and I do have the zones. I do have the zones on most of them. And I only usually pick plants. Very seldom do I pick plant out of our zone. The epimedium that I have on there, I think because they mostly grow in the shade, I do have, it does come back for me every year. So I think, and we're not in 4 anymore. We're really 5A now. And I think you could definitely push it to 6. I wouldn't say trees and shrubs as much, but perennials is a lot of forgiveness because you can mulch them for the winter. So, but only one plant that I know of that was zone 6.
Okay, let's see. What are some of the longer blooming plants that go greater than 2 months?
2 months is a long time,
Yeah.
but there was a couple of them in there that were long blooming. The coreopsis was, that geranium Roseanne was. I'd have to go back to the slides, but there's a lot of them. That's what the whole idea of combining plants in a perennial garden is to Google the bloom time or get yourself a good resource book and look at those bloom times and coordinate that on a graph so you have something in bloom. I mean, and I like to spot them through the garden so it carries your eye through the garden instead of, most people don't have room for masses of plants. They have room for, like, you'll get 3 coreopsis and put them here, here, and here, you know, so that your eye carries through the garden. So, but 2 months that's a pretty long time for a plant to bloom for perennials. So, but there were some in there that are longer blooming, but I'd have to review it again. So I think I did mention most of the time if I thought it was going to bloom for 2 months or long blooming or starting in the fall, or I did mention that here and there.
So yeah, good to review again. So how are we addressing the challenge of jumping worms at the plant sales?
We don't bring in dug plants out of our gardeners' gardens. We always sold plants for years and years that were, you know, plants that people had too much of. Our master gardeners, we dig them up and bring them to the plant sale. But when we discovered the jumping worm was a big problem, we no longer accept plants brought in from other people's gardens unless they were certified jumping worm free. And we do run a certification through the master gardeners for people to get their gardens, they have to, there's a process where they have to prove they don't have jumping worms if they're going to bring plants in. So that's why we wholesale our plants, and we don't just bring in dug plants. We wholesale them. The wholesalers are always looking for jumping worm problems. And so that's why we use people that are marketing to the Midwest.
Okay, we have a couple of questions about what the cost of the plants are at the sale and what kind of payment we accept.
It's cash or check. Oh, no, they did start taking credit card the last couple years. So they do take credit card, checks, or cash.
Okay, we are having a backyard wedding on September 30th. What might still be blooming?
Those anemones or that variegated with the yellow flower that will bloom in the fall. There was quite a few. The asters will be blooming. Now there's a lot of fall blooming stuff on the PowerPoint.
Phlox and echinacea.
Echinacea, some of them will still be blooming, but they're going to start around July 1st. But it does say on the slides themselves when the bloom time is. So you'll have to look for that.
This one, it says some of my perennials are 20 years old, especially daylilies, but now they are no longer growing at the center of the mound, only along the outside edge of the circle. Why is this happening? And should I dig out the section of the outside ring and replant it in the center?
You should dig up the entire daylily. And that's why I don't grow a lot of daylilies. I grow hostas because you never have to dig them up. I love daylilies, but yes, they do. They're good for about, they said 3 to 5 years, and you need to dig up the clump and you need to separate the bulblets. They have like these long tuber type things, separate them out and then replant them. If you want a larger clump looking thing in the first year after planting, maybe take 5 of them and plant them 3 or 4 inches apart, or like in a group of 5, and and then replant them though their bulbs are too close, they're too crowded, and so they're not producing flowers any longer. That's very, very common in a lot of perennials, Shasta daisies, anything like that. You have to do some maintenance on them. So, but yeah, a lot of daylily people do dig them up, and either you can give half of it to your friends or whatever you like, but they do take maintenance every 3 to 5 years.
My favorite tool for that is called a Sawzall.
That's right. That's right. I mean, they say I've seen videos where they're separating them with 2 forks, but it looks like entirely too much work for me. I think Tom's got the right idea. Dig up the clump, set it on a chopping block, and just take your sawzall to it and cut it in 4 pieces. But the best way is to actually take a big tub of water, put it in that tub of water, let it sit there for a day, soften it up, and start pulling it apart. That would be the best way to do it.
What if heuchera isn't growing well in the shade?
Well, then it needs more light. Actually, I think heuchera, I don't think they should ever be in shade. I don't think they'll do hardly anything in the shade. I do think they'll do best in part sun. I showed you a picture where there was a clump of them in almost full sun. And I think that they'll look the best in a lot more light. So now heucherella is different. Heucherella is got the Terriella species in it. So that will take more shade, because it'll be more of a woodland type plant. But the heucheras have been hybridized so much. And I mean, originally a heuchera was a woodland type plant, but with the new cultivars and stuff, I think they need part sun at the least.
All right, that looks like all our questions. Thank you, Kathy. This was great and very informative. And if anyone comes up with a question that needs answering, we have the Gardener SOS source that you can ask your gardening questions to that. Tom, you want to give that address again?
Gardener SOS at outagamy.org. And so if you have any questions, you can fire them to us there. I would like to comment on next month's program, which is a bit of a change. We're going to be talking about vegetable gardens and specifically raised beds. And we're excited to have Lisa Johnson, who is the Dane County horticulturalist. She'll be talking to us. And if that name rings a bell, she's a contributor to Larry Mueller's Garden Talk. So it's really going to be a great program.
Very excited. Lisa Johnson was my teacher when I went through the classes in Dane County. So
Really?
yeah, she was. So I'm excited to see her. So, well, thank you for everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.